All right, good morning. This is Chairman Peter Villegas. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Our first meeting for 2024, and I'd like to start off by doing the Pledge of Allegiance. So if all of us can rise, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance together. And flags over behind us. All right, ready? I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of America, to the republic, stands God. Mr. Foster, can you establish the quorum?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Wetch? Commissioner Gruelle?
Here.
Commissioner Fiore? Here. Commissioner and Dr. DeMars?
Here.
Vice Chair and Dr. Williams?
Here.
And Chairman Villegas.
Here.
Sir, we have a quorum, six commissioners. Commissioner Hendrickson, I don't have in here yet.
Okay. Because our attorney isn't here as of yet, we're going to adjust the agenda so that we can keep things going. And then when we have some action items that he needs to oversee, then we'll address them. Good to see you, Commissioner DeMars. I see you have a guest in the back.
I do. It's always good to have good help.
Yes. So let me make my welcome remarks. It's our first meeting for 2024. A great year in 2023. The things that we were able to accomplish together as a commission, including the retirement fund for MMA fighters, is historic. But I also want to acknowledge all of our commissioners, my fellow commissioners. It is fantastic to see their engagement, their enthusiasm, and their passion for this responsibilities that we have, this great sports that we oversee, and then bring their own subject matter expertise to our responsibilities. And it's always pleasing to see all of you at the events that we have responsibility for. So I just wanted to thank you all for that. And of course, Mr. Foster, we're going to have a fantastic 2024. And I look forward to tackling all the issues that we need to tackle with all of you. With that, let's see if we can get a possible motion to approve the December 9th, 2023 commission meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any comments from the public? Hearing none. Mr. Foster?
Great. Commissioner Wetch?
Aye.
Commissioner Gruelle?
Aye.
Commissioner Fiore? Commissioner and Dr. DeMars?
Aye.
Vice Chair Dr. Williams?
Abstain, I wasn't present.
Okay. Chairman Villegas?
Aye.
5-0, sir, with one abstention.
Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Thank you. As I mentioned, because our attorney is not here yet, so we're going to go past all the other action items, action number 9 and 4, number 5, number 6, and number 7. And then we will jump to the executive officer's report. And then when our attorney arrives, we'll go back to the action items.
Okay. Chairman Villegas, we're going to start with the budget. As of February 28th, the commission's deposited $1,551,000 into the account. Met with the budget office prior to this meeting. We're looking like the commission's going to expend somewhere between 2.1 and 2.3 million dollars this fiscal year. Probably going to be around 2.2, and that's with the bump from the trailer language that we're going to request for the inspectors. I think we're allocated 1.9, and we're going to ask for the additional allocation. And in fact, we've already sent that over. So that leads us to revenue. the last, with the Creo bill that you helped with, Assemblymember Creo, the UFC maxed and it did a lot better than expectations, set a record. And, the commission deposited the max on that one. And then with the, World Wrestling Entertainment signing the deal also, they had an event there Monday. And so we have this, the revenue is coming in from the wrestling events at a higher clip than what was initially anticipated. So with our boxing events that we have on the horizon, we have March 30th with Golden Boy, it's a large event. April 27th, then the BKFC is down at near the Staples Center at LA Live on that same day. And both those events will do very well. And San Diego has a top rank event. And then we have an event on June 1st that's going to be at the Forum that I'm not publicly can't acknowledge what that event is, but that event will do very, very well at the Forum. With those events, we should be okay on revenue, and we should at least break even this year, if not not go a little bit revenue positive. That's my best guess based on the rest of the year. Certainly an uptick, but I would point out Tom Brown, TGB, has yet to put in a permit with us, our largest stakeholder. We still do not have a permit from TGB Promotions. They did put in their first permit in Nevada for a pay-per-view at the end of the month. That's with the Amazon. The Neurological Fund continues to get additional revenue.
Hold on, Andy.
Sure.
Any questions on the budget for Ms. Proctor?
Yeah, Andy, when are you scheduled to be in the budget subcommittee? Do you know the date?
I do not yet, sir.
Would you let me know?
I will. Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Proctor.
Then we get to the Neurological Fund, and as Dr. Williams can remember, we worked on that regulation for many years and eventually passed and took effect, and it gave the percentage. So the Neurological Fund is starting to get additional revenues now as well. And in fact, it did quite well at the last UFC. I think we deposited about 15,000 to the Neurological Fund from that particular event. The Boxers Pension Fund, we continue to put money into that. And then you can see that for the first time, I'm reporting the MMA retirement or the MMA benefit fund. You can see that we've put $15,722.71 so far this year, as of February 28th, into that fund. And that will continue to grow. We don't have a state code just yet for where to put it. We're working on that. We should have that soon. Department of Finance will get that for us. But when we get that, your weekly reports will now instead of having 3 items, we'll have 4 items for the budget. That's where we're at on the budget. The Raymond James statement, because the commission's been paying out a lot more of the retired boxers than normal. That fund is down to $4.5 million. They've had good returns on the investments. So that's my budget update. Any questions from any commissioners? Okay. Now we got as many of you know, as your executive officer, I chair the Mixed Martial Arts subcommittee, or the Mixed Martial Arts Committee for the rules for the Association of Boxing Commissions. I'm supporting and spearheading 2 changes to the unified rules of mixed martial arts this year. And before I get to that, I also want to point out that speaking with Herb Dean about this language literally last night, and he's in Thailand, Commissioner Wetch and I were at an event, I believe in January, over at Sac State, and there was a fighter that got spiked on his head pretty hard. I'm working on language to address that because the current language has it.
Andy, can you define spiked?
Yeah, we don't want fighters to be picked up and slammed directly on their head or neck. We don't, that would be what made this particular throw legal according to the way that we interpret it, is there was a bit of an arc, and the fighter had set up a Kimura on the backside. So the guy had a Kimura, but I think it was more like basically to hang on than to actually submit the fighter. And when we originally wrote that back years ago, I know you guys will know what I'm talking about. When the fighter's on the bottom and they put the top fighter into a submission, whether it be an arm bar or a triangle, the guy on the bottom can let go if he's lifted off the ground. They don't have to ride with it. They can let it go and they'll fall back down. They're safe. We didn't anticipate basically a mat return with a spike in it if they just have a Kimura in place. We didn't anticipate that. We saw it. Commissioner Wetch saw it. We were live. It concerned me. We've watched it a bunch of times, and we got to figure out the language, because that, I don't think what we saw should be a legal spot, a legal maneuver. What do you have any comments about that?
It just happened. Thank you, Andy. It just happened that the throw happened very near where we were sitting at the judges table. And, you know, back in my wrestling days, we'd refer to that as a souffle. And where he was picked up and thrown over the top, and he landed on his neck. And Andy and I immediately looked at each other because we thought he may have broken his neck, which would have been obviously devastating. But he jumped up again, and then immediately at the conclusion of the round, Herb Dean Rent, who was officiating, came over and talked about it, about, you know, the need to reform the rules around those throws.
I was a participant.
He was fine. He continued on into the he continued on. But as Herb and I were speaking last night, you know, government moves slow, and we're working to try to address this and get some language. But it's going to be a shame if somebody gets hurt if we don't do anything. And at least we're starting the process of discussing it. We're nowhere near as far along with the discussions on it as we are with the knee in the head of a grounded opponent or downward elbow strikes. But I did get ONE FC's language yesterday. They're the promotion based in Asia and Singapore. And I'm looking at that because they don't allow that. Interestingly enough, they allow knees to the head of a grounded opponent. That's a different topic, but they don't allow what we saw, the spike. And so that will be coming. It's not for this meeting, but I want to provide you updates because that's going to be in the future. Now, the first change that I'm supporting and hoping to bring is there's this idea, and it's not an idea. The rule says that if your hand is down, you can't be kneed in the head. And as I pointed this out, and all the commissioners have started been watching this, and the fighters will stick their hand down and then raise it back up and put it down and raise it back up in this artificial rule idea that we've created where they're going to get to protect their head. They're going to protect their face and not get kneed. And it's bad because the fighter on top can't really tell if the hand's down many times. They're just kind of guessing. And how are you going to fix it? Well, the referee can tell them if they're down or not. Is that really the referee's job to be getting that involved with the fight? Okay, you can knee him or you can't. Well, I don't know if that's really their purpose. So my solution is just get rid of the hand. If you want to be down, put your knee down, put your elbow down, put something other than your hands or your feet on the ground. You won't get kneed anymore, or it'll be a foul. If you want to be a standing fighter, just stand up. But that's your choices. And I think that's a more natural response to martial arts because you ordinarily should keep your hands to protect your face, not stick them on the ground. It's created a tremendous amount of confusion among the public, among the fighters. And it's not like this is a new problem. This has been a 20-year problem. Don't know why it took me this long to think this out. Because we tried to fix this back in 2015 or 2016, and the language all got messed up with the two hands type thing. This thing is just, let's just get rid of the hand and just make it more clean. And we've got some examples to show you. The first one, let's show the commissioners and let's play the commentary, Tricia, because the commentary speaks for itself. The confusion, again, you can come on up to the table here. The commentary literally speaks for itself. It doesn't even need explanation. You can just understand exactly what the issue is. Tricia, it's Mark Goddard's fight, the Allen versus Evilov fight. Okay. This was in Toronto, Canada, sir.
Well, UFC Fight Club, we relaunched it to give our fans incredible access to some amazing benefits, dining discounts, travel savings benefits, something for everyone. Go to UFCFightClub.com now.
Wow, that was legal, wasn't it? Because he was, yeah, he did, but it was legal because he was moving up and down with his hand.
Yeah,
Those were legal, I think.
no, I think he hit him in the head, and I think those were illegal.
But isn't it true if your hand's coming up and down, it's not a
He
down
was trying
opponent?
to lift him, but I think his hands were.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Honestly, because
Let's see that
his
replay.
hand was moving on and off the mat. You can't try to ground your hand to stay safe.
Yeah,
look at me.
That's illegal.
Good.
He was trying to lift
at me
him up,
first,
but
please.
look, yeah,
See?
look, he's trying to.
I mean, he did lift him,
He's trying to lift him up, right?
but he's also trying to touch the
Yeah,
man.
he's hitting him in the head with his hands down. I mean, yeah. Well, every time his hand's gonna come up when you knee him. Everyone's illegal.
Hands down. The second one. Stay where you are. Stay where you are. Stop. Come in. Look at me. Let's go. You okay? You okay? Stop. Come here, please. Just 1 second. We're going to double check. That's all.
Mark Goddard calling in the ringside physician.
Okay? Good, good. It's only inconsequential, Doug. I just want to see. Okay, we're cool. Arnold, come back. Okay, come round. Look at me. Arnold, listen. I'm going to give you a hard warning there. You're pulling him. He's dragging his hand. He's up, down. I know it's accidental. Yeah. Please watch what you're doing, okay? Yes, I am not deducting a point.
That's a good. I think that's a good reffing right there, to be honest, because he's moving up and.
I think that kind of speaks for itself. I mean, got another example. And we just provided two. We could be sitting here all day if we wanted to provide them all, but let's look at the Grasso Shavinko fight. Yeah.
Great spall. See what she can do with this front headlock.
The hands up.
Yeah, she was moving her back, so those were legal because she was dragging her backwards and the hand was coming up while she was moving. You can't touch the hand on the floor to stop them from kneeing you.
So there's that one. I mean, I don't think I have to kind of keep belaboring it. It's a problem. So any comments, questions about this particular?
Yeah, Andy, what are the other major states do in regard to this rule?
Well, so many states follow the unified rules of mixed martial arts. And so they will follow whatever the definition of the grounded fighter is. And
Okay.
so I'm just trying to work it out. I wanted to bring it to my commission though and show exactly what I'm working on because this
Sure.
is,
So if this were to be adopted, would it be made a point of emphasis for the refs when they go in and explain the rules to the fighters? Because I'd hate to see a fighter come from another state or another country, put themselves into a vulnerable position because they think they've grounded themselves to take a vicious knee. You know, so I think if you do this, at least for the first year, it should be a point of emphasis when you go into the dressing rooms and explain the rules to fighters.
Absolutely, Commissioner Wetch. I think that's a great idea. And in fact, the suggestion that I had with the committee at the ABC is whenever this is actually voted on at the association, there be a 6 to 8 month lag time so that fighters can be educated as to when this is actually going to take effect. On top of that is we have the training in Louisville at the Ali Center for the referees coming up in July. And you do not want, I suggested having the vote ahead of time, maybe by Zoom, like in April, because you don't want the referees to teach something that's going to change 2 days later. It's got to be enough time. But make no mistake, this is a substantial change to the way mixed martial arts is fought in this country. This is not insignificant. This is a big change. It's been suggested that it's less prohibitive. There's no doubt it's less prohibitive. There's no doubt about it. I would argue that it's safer because fighters will not be in an artificial, just as Commissioner Wetch mentioned, fighters have this idea that if they put their hand down, that they're going to be protected, but the fighter on top doesn't really know that the hand's down. We had a meeting with the region, the western region of the states, and on Friday, and it was suggested, well, how will the fighter know if they're down on their knee? How will they know? Well, just as somebody does this all the time, like if somebody drops to their knee, their elevation will change. The fighter will know, it's pretty evident that they're going to know that they're on the ground and they can't knee them anymore. And I think that just that elevation change will point out, hey, I can't knee this person anymore. So that was one of the questions that we received. Yeah.
And just let me be clear, Andy, this is for the ABC. So this would be adopted worldwide.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So it wouldn't be a change if they go from one country or one state to another. And let me just highlight this formally. This is the part of Andy's leadership, not just for his role and responsibility here in California, but it speaks to Andy and this commission that we are helping to set standards for the rest of the world on this issue. So I just wanted to acknowledge that publicly.
I ask a question, Chairman. This is a really important position that Andy sits on for our commission as California helps drive these sports into a safer and better direction. I'm assuming it's important for Andy to be at those meetings, and I am concerned that as part of the state's budgetary process, sometimes there's some travel constraints, but I'd like, at least my opinion is, to recognize that it's really important, I think, for Andy to be physically present at these meetings to make sure that if we are going to take a leadership role in adopting some rule changes, those rule changes are expressed in the correct way. And I just can't see that happening over a Zoom or a conference call. So I'd like to just have this commission consider, maybe reaching out and sending a strong message that Andy's got to be physically at those meetings.
Thank you. I concur. Definitely.
Thank you. And sir, the second change is I want to eliminate the 12-6 elbow strike. Not because this is a thing that's impacted mixed martial arts really. It's just it's an antiquated rule. It doesn't make any kind of sense because if you can do an 11-5, you can do a 9-3. 9-3s are more damaging, I think, than 12. The only time a 12-6 would ever be used if you're in a mounted position. And if you're in a mounted position, you'll lose your position if you lose your balance if you try to do this. Even the one we're going to show you, even though Mazzagatti called it a 12-6, it's not a traditional 12-6. So think of a 12-6 the way that you break a block of ice, which is where it all came from back in 2001. But you've got to come straight down in like and so I've not saw any of these. For one thing, they're not enforced by the referee. So that's one thing. You wouldn't open up the rules book to make a change if we wasn't doing grounded fighter. But since we're doing grounded fighter, it makes sense to just get rid of this rule while we're doing it. Do you want to show this is the most famous example, John Jones's only loss. Mazzagatti calls it a foul. It's, you know, this is the most famous example in the world. Okay, that's it. Yeah, probably saw that a bunch of times, but that's the most famous example of where a 12-6 hasn't been enforced in a long time. And obviously, we're not saying that you can, all the sensitive areas, you still can't elbow to the back of the head, the spine, anything like that. We're just talking about this one particular angle. It'd be removed from the unified rules. Any questions on that? No?
Is that all? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So Andy, if I understand this, both of these rule changes are really to make things clear that both in the case with the elbow strike, if it's slightly different angle, it's okay. And if their hand was down for a second, it's a point off or it's illegal. But if it's up for a second, it's fine. So basically, this is to make the ruling, the judging a little bit clearer and less error prone. Is that correct?
That's correct. Certainly with the elbow strike and certainly with the grounded fighter, it's to make it so that the fighters understand the referee's job's a lot easier, and we don't have referees in this weird judgment call issue where we're looking to try to we're putting too much. Yes, to make it clear. That's the thing. We're putting too much on our referees. We're asking them to go officiate this sport with kind of a poor rule set, and then we're hoping that they get it right, and we get frustrated with them when they don't. For example, I know you all have heard this idea where the hand has to have weight bearing. Everybody's heard that. Okay? That doesn't exist anywhere. That's just made up. And some referees enforce it and some don't. I'm trying to get away from that. We wanted to make it more clear so the public understands.
I have to tell you, when I first saw this rule change, about had a heart attack because until I read the whole thing, I thought you were proposing to allow like kicking, like soccer kicks to the head of a down fighter. And I was like, no. But then when I read it, it was clear that what you meant was just to make it easier for the referees to be consistent. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yes, to your point, Commissioner DeMars, it's been suggested that we just go with basically knees to the head of grounded opponent. That's a suggestion. I'm not there. I don't know if I'll ever be there. I just think that's dangerous. I saw a soccer kick to Brad Kohler back in my home state of Georgia back, I don't know, 25 years ago, 20 years ago. It scared me then. It scares me now. I don't think that's a great look, especially when you've got a person towering over the other person. They're hurt and you soccer kick them in the head. That's not a great
terrible.
Yeah.
Is that all you have under item B?
That's it, sir.
Okay, so since our legal counsel, Mr. Swenson, is here, why don't we hold there at that point on your report, Andy? Then when we come back to you, you can pick up on item C. And then now we will go back to the action items, which will start with 3. Okay, and I also want to acknowledge our stenographer who's doing real time. I know how hard that is. My wife tells me all the time, so we will make sure to speak slowly and clearly so that you can write it down. Okay,
I think we're on number 4 now.
are we on number 4? So we're go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say for the record, sorry for being late to the meeting. I was unavoidably detained. With respect to the approval of minutes, I understand that that motion has carried.
Right.
And that there were no members of the public on WebEx for which public comment could be taken. Thank you.
Correct. Okay, so now we will go to item 4, election of officers pursuant to the requirements of the Business and Profession Code. Professions Code, Section 18606. So as you know, every year we elect our officers. And at this time, I'd like to open it up to any nominations and motions for 2024 for the chairman and vice chair.
So now is the time and place for the annual election of officers pursuant to the customary practice of the commission. I'll temporarily chair the proceedings for election of nomination of officers, election and nomination of officers. So the nominations are open for the office of president of the commission. Do I hear any nominations for the office of president of the commission?
Yes.
Excuse me, chair.
Mr. Chairman, I know I'm the new kid on the commission, but I have spent 37 years working in and around state government, and I've served on several state boards and commissions. And I have to say that in my short time on this commission, I've found it to be one of the best run boards or commissions that I've encountered in my career. And that's in large part due to obviously Andy and the staff and the tremendous job they do. But I also think it's the leadership of our current chairman, the level of engagement on a daily basis and the number of events that he attends has been quite impressive indeed. And so I would very proudly nominate Chairman Villegas for another term.
So Mr. Wetch has nominated Mr. Villegas for the position of chair of the commission. Do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Villegas accepts the nomination. Are there any further nominations for the office of chair of the commission? Any further nominations? Hearing none, we'll take any comment from the members of the commission at this time.
One moment. Again, the further nominations includes the vice chair?
No, we'll proceed to vice chair.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Any comments from members of the commission? Hearing none, any comments from members of the public?
This is the WebEx moderator. We've opened up the WebEx hand raise feature to facilitate public comment. If anyone has a comment on the nomination, you may click on the hand icon. If you are on a mobile device, that may be behind the 3-dot other options. We are displaying instructions on the screen. Are there any comments on the nomination? I do not see any requests to comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. So the nomination is to elect Mr. Villegas, the chair for the upcoming year. It's an implied motion. The members of the commission had an opportunity to comment. Public's had an opportunity to comment. So now we're ready to call the question. Mr. Foster.
Yes, Commissioner Wedge,
Aye.
Commissioner Gruelle,
Aye.
Commissioner Fiore, Commissioner Dr. DeMars,
Aye.
Vice Chair Dr. Williams,
Aye.
Chairman Villegas.
Abstain.
Okay. All right, motion passes, sir.
So congratulations, Chair Villegas. You've been reelected for another year.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the nomination and the support from all the commissioners. We are truly a team, and when we have this much talent, it makes it easier and better to serve the role as chair. So I want to thank each and every one of you, and then obviously Mr. Foster. So we'll continue to move forward and raise the level of standards so that we continue to be the best commission in the country. Thank you very much.
Nominations are now open for the office of vice chair. For the office of vice chair, do I hear any nominations?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Vice Chair Dr. Williams to continue this role as vice chair. His knowledge in his area of medical expertise is critical to this commission, and his engagement and passion for this commission and for these for the sport is fantastic, and I'd like to nominate him as well.
Dr. Williams, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Any further nominations for the office of Vice Chair? Any further nominations? Hearing none, we'll proceed to take any commission member comment on the implied motion to elect Dr. Williams as Vice Chair. Any comment from any commissioners? Hearing none, we'll proceed to take any public comment.
This is the moderator. We are using the WebEx hand raise feature to facilitate public comment. If anyone has a comment, you may look for the hand icon, typically at the bottom of your WebEx computer screen or behind the 3-dot other options if you are on a mobile device. Each speaker will have 2 minutes with a 15-second warning. Any comments on Vice Chair? I do not see any requests for comments. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator.
You're welcome.
The implied motion is ready to call a roll. The members have had an opportunity to make comment, and the public's had an opportunity to make comment. Mr. Foster.
Commissioner Welch,
Aye.
Commissioner Gruelle,
Aye.
Commissioner Fiore, Commissioner and Dr. DeMars,
Aye.
Chairman Villegas,
Aye.
Vice Chair Dr. Williams.
I'll abstain as well.
5-0, motion passes, sir.
Very good.
Congratulations, Dr. Williams. You've been reelected as the Vice Chair.
Thank you.
That concludes the elections of officers for this year.
Thank you. Thank you, team. We'll continue to move forward. Dr. Williams, you have any comments on your election?
Yeah, no, thank you. I do, and I would just like to say I appreciate the confidence. I don't take it lightly. And I will say that in addition to praying for the health of the chair as my primary primary duty, I don't take it lightly at all. I consider it an honor and a privilege, and I love working with the commission. I have absolutely enjoyed working with Andy and with you as well, Peter, and all of the other commissioners. So thank you.
Thank you. And to all the other commissioners, as well as Dr. Williams mentioned, we take this role seriously as appointed individuals, and that we're representing the state of California. And I really acknowledge each and every one of you for your leadership and your support. So thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 5, the discussion and possible action regarding Team Combat League's request for a temporary promoter's license in order to hold an event using Team Combat League rules pursuant to California Code of Regulations, Title 4, Section 533. Mr. Foster?
Yes, sir. This is Team Combat League. They're back. I think the commissioners will remember, I don't think Commissioner Welch or Commissioner Fiore was with us when the initial approval was given, but I'm sure Commissioner Gruelle, yourself, and Dr. Williams remember when they came before us using Thompson Boxing's license. We did 2 at Long Beach. Remember, it was the one round bouts that they do, the kind of a team format, and they have the LA team. They're wanting to have another event. They've gotten kind of things in order. They've kind of changed some of their, I wouldn't exactly call it ownership. I think they've changed ownership as far as the financial backing, but they've requested a promoter's license and an event. And my request is that the commission approve Team Combat Promotions promoter's license, and to allow me the option to approve them for a full license upon completion and review of their first event, since they've already had 2 other events with us.
Do they do their combat events in other states?
Yes,
And they're on pay-per-view, or?
they're streaming. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
they're streaming. Okay. Any questions for Mr. Foster?
Where is this March 28th event supposed to be?
Well, it's supposed to be at the Burbank Marriott, but I don't think that we're going to be able to make that happen because we have too many events that weekend. We have 5 already, and they're big events. They're not small events. So they're going to need to postpone or, push this back. I'd already told them that that's a bit of a push, but that's a pretty quick turnaround. But they want to have another event. Because we just don't have the staff. And this particular kind of event, because of the sheer number of bouts that that are running, takes a lot, is much more labor intensive. Like, how many we run in Long Beach? Like 60 bouts in a day or something like that. I believe it was 60.
Yeah, it was about 60 bouts in a day.
Yeah, that's a lot of bouts.
15 or
60,
60.
60. But they're only 1-round bouts. So it's like they put them in and then out. So from a safety perspective, it's not really unsafe, but what I thought would happen turned out not to be the case. I thought that like the superior boxer would win every time, and that's absolutely not the case because if there's only 1 round, it takes a little bit of time to get the rhythm going. And maybe like you call it like the MMA fighter or the brawler type person, the more they'll just come at you and that's all the judge has to score. It's kind of an interesting dynamic.
So would we put limits on how many? You said 60. Now, that's one individual per round, but for our staff, I mean, our referees keep going and our inspectors keep going. We were all at the UFC fight in Anaheim. That was a long day. I didn't see them eat. I didn't see them be, are they getting re-energized? Are they taking care of themselves? Because they just keep going. But how long is that day? And can we put limits on the length of it?
I can put limits on it.
Okay, I'm just concerned about our staff and how much effort and energy they put in to an evening. It's quite a bit.
And I had another question. I'm assuming this is boxing, but how does this kind of relate to our retirement fund or how we charge for these types of events or keep records for these events?
But they're paying into it and they're getting credit for their one because they're only scheduled for 1 round, but they're getting credit.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I'd like to ask for a motion.
Make a motion to approve based on the recommendation.
Second,
Second.
any comments from the public? On
This is the WebEx moderator. We've opened up the hand raise feature to facilitate public comment. If anyone would like to make a comment on the discussion, you can look for the hand icon, typically at the bottom of the WebEx screen or behind the 3-dot other options if you're on a mobile device. Click that hand and your hand will be raised. Each speaker will be called on in order and we will give you 2 minutes with a 15-second warning. Are there any comments on the discussion? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Please.
Thank you.
Okay, no comment from the public in person or on WebEx. We have a first and a second. Mr. Foster, can you call for vote?
Thank you. Commissioner Wedge,
Aye.
Commissioner Gruelle,
Aye.
Commissioner Fiore, Commissioner Dr. DeMars,
Aye.
Vice Chair Dr. Williams,
Aye.
and Chairman Villegas.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries, sir.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 6, the discussion and possible action regarding approving the request for a boxer's pension distribution from retired boxer Paul Benke.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as you notice, there's not a memo in here on this one. I think Mr. Swenson's still.
Yeah, I can brief the commission on the legal authority for this. Pursuant to Rule 408 of the boxing rules, which can be found at California Code of Regulations, Title 4, Section 408, Subdivision B empowers the commission to determine all questions arising in connection with the administration, interpretation, an application of the boxer's pension plan and gives the commission all powers necessary or appropriate to accomplish the duties under the plan. The commission has certain specified duties of general administration, which include the discretion to determine questions relating to eligibility of boxers to receive benefits, as well as the duty to compute, certify, and direct the amount and kind of benefits to which any covered boxer is entitled. In summary, then, the commission has the authority to act on this application and to approve the claim of benefits if a factual basis is determined to exist. Thank you.
So commissioners, that's your authority, that you have the authority to hear what we're about to tell you. Paul Banky is a boxer who was part of the original pension fund. And in '96, when the fund got switched over to the current iteration, I can't speak to what happened, but I don't believe his records ever got transferred over. And this got brought up when Miss Gutierrez, Melody Gutierrez, wrote her piece for the LA Times, and it got kind of out there. Mr. Banky applied with us, and he was speaking with Miss Gutierrez, and I've looked at it, talked to Ken about it. We've counted rounds. We've went through our records and we found a few of his purses, but we don't have any kind of near the data to put it together so that the algorithm would be fair. It just doesn't exist. We don't have it. I think he qualifies. I'm sure he qualifies. I'm sure he qualifies. And I don't think he's ever been paid. He certainly don't think he's been paid. And he's applying. And the question becomes how to fairly give him what he's due. I think that's the question. And without the records, we have 2 or 3 of the records. And I can tell you that I think it's fair to say that this is not $1 million boxer. So we can get there. We're not talking about 7-figure type boxer. So one of the ways that I thought would be probably fair, maybe in Mr. Banky's favor a bit, because we've had some above average payouts, is we could take the last 3 years and average it. We have the money in the Smith Fund to make the payment if that's something the commissioners wanted to do. That'd be about $21,000 over the last 3 years. Another way to do it is he would have invested in 2014. We could take 2014, 2015, 2016 and average that. Could do that because the lost beneficiary clause, and he stopped generating interest at that time. We're not talking about a tremendous amount of money difference between those two time frames, but
what would be the amount for the latter?
I believe it was like 18,000, sir, something like that. It's up to but as you can see, this is a pretty big deal. I mean, at least this is a pretty big bunch of money, and I was not going to make this decision on without a commission vote. That's why it's here.
I have a question on that, just for clarification. So when I looked, it's pretty clear, given the number of bouts, he qualifies, yes?
Yes.
And so the question is, because we don't have data on attendance and the amount of money that's put in the pension fund for those, we're not sure how much he gets. Is that it?
That's correct.
So basically, it's not his fault, right?
Correct.
He fought in those fights. We know he fought in those fights. He knows he fought in those fights. So it seems to me, if it's not his fault, we should give him the benefit of the doubt, whichever one is larger. I mean, we're not, like you said, we're not talking about $7 million. And here's somebody who, fought a lot, brought a lot into the state, dedicated a lot of himself to the sport. I say we give him, and the only fair way is to figure what was the average, right? Because we don't know. So if we have 2 higher averages, I don't think it's going to break the state of California's budget if he gets the higher amount of $3,000. And the other thing is, if we're not sure and he comes back and challenges it, and we weren't sure, we don't have much leg to stand on. But if we say there were two amounts, we gave you the higher one, then I feel a little more confident that we treated him fairly. And I think that's the most important thing.
That was my thought, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I agree with
Commissioner
Dr.
Floyd?
DeMars. I just want to add to that and say, I think it's important that the commissioners in the state let it be known that we look out for our fighters and we're looking out for their best interest. And though this is an isolated incident, we're making a statement, and I think it's important to do that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, and I wanted to echo his and confirm, this is an isolated issue. We don't expect any more?
We don't expect any more, sir.
Okay,
Not saying it couldn't happen.
gotcha.
We don't expect any more.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
I just had one question. I read a little bit about the fighter. He has dementia. Sounds like some really serious health issues. Is this his family coming forward, or how did?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
The recommended form of motion would be to approve the application, award benefits, fix the amount of benefits at $21,017.89, representing the average payout over the 3 years, 3 prior years.
So
We
moved.
have a motion to that effect? Okay, Commissioner DeMars, do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Fiore. Any comments, questions from the public? Hearing none.
This is the
WebEx?
WebEx moderator. Thank you. We've opened up the WebEx hand raise feature to facilitate public comment. If you'd like to make a comment, you can look for the hand icon and click that. If you're on a mobile device, that icon may be behind the 3-dot other options. Each speaker will have 2 minutes with a 15-second warning. Are there any comments? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Foster, can you call a vote?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Wedge,
Aye.
Commissioner Gruelle,
Aye.
Commissioner Fiore,
Aye.
Commissioner Dr. DeMars,
Aye.
Vice Chair Dr. Williams,
Aye.
Chairman Villegas.
Aye.
Motion carries, sir.
Thank you. Okay, great. Now we're moving on to item number 7, review, discussion, and possible action. Approving proposed changes to previously approved text amending section 299 of Article 6 of Division 2 of Title 4 of the California Code of Regulations, dehydration and rehydration. Mr. Foster?
Mr. Chairman, we have a Regulations Council here with us to discuss this with the commissioners, if that's necessary. Wanted this to come back to the commissioners. I'm at a loss on what to do with this weight cutting issue. This is a big problem, but I don't know what to do with it. It's a big, big problem. I don't think it's as big as it was in 2015 or 2017. I know, Dr. Williams, you were here and all those fighters were getting transported to the hospital from the weigh-ins that year. At least we're paying attention to that. That seems to have improved. We've not had any of that happen this year. And not since that. Since we've started this thing, we've not had fighters transported from the weigh-ins that I can remember. But if we cancel bouts at 15% or higher, we're going to decimate our industry. And I've got some examples to show you. Tricia, can you put up do you have that slide of all the title fights that would have been canceled? This just kind of, I don't know. So it's difficult for the commissioners and the public to see how big that is, but let me just give you a couple of names that you would recognize that would have been canceled just recently. Taporia, Volkanovski, Paulo Costa, Jeff Neal. We get down to boxing. Magayaso versus Figueroa, that bout would have been canceled. Golden Boy Angel Acosta, which we've been working with him for a long time, but that would have been canceled. Walter Sabonis would have been canceled. Yeah, Devin Haney, Carlos Adamas, Yeah, Rashidi Ellis. So this is the point. This is a big problem. I don't know how to fix it, but this gaining of this weight cannot be healthy. Is this healthy, Dr. Williams?
No, and well, I think there's the health component and then there's the fairness issue as well.
And that's the fairness issue is where Dr. Williams, I can't speak because I'm not a medical person. I can't speak to that piece of it, although I do see them and they look like they're suffering really bad with the weight cuts. What was interesting about this last UFC is we weighed them on Monday. They weren't that bad on Monday. They just gained a lot of weight between weigh-in and fight time. So
You weighed them on Monday after the fight or before?
oh, no, before, like when they arrived in
Okay.
in LA. And so my thoughts are to what Dr. Williams said. What are they doing here? They're essentially paying to be bigger. Can we all agree that that's essentially what's happening? They're wanting to be bigger so that they can beat their opponent so that they can win. That's essentially what they're.
And they're not concerned about ramifications.
Right. They're not concerned because they kind of know. I mean, I've canceled a few bouts recently when we had the 30-pound weight swing between the females, like the 115 female. I had like a 28-pound swing between two females that weighed in like at 115 or something. I canceled that bout based on the safety of the athlete. And I've canceled a few, but when we're talking about major things where the public has paid a lot of money to come watch and stuff, we've got discretion and we're going to use it not to mess this bout up. That's essentially the problem. How do you fix it? And I'm up for solutions. I've not got the solution. That's why I'm talking to the commissioners about it. It's your thing. But one of the ideas that I had is Dr. Wallace has always said that money impacts fighters. That seems to be the thing. And if they both know that they were to lose 20% of their money, if they went over 15%, and then this is the trick, their money goes to their opponent, they probably neither one would do it because they don't want to. I don't know. It's a novel solution. I don't have the solution, but that's an idea, and that's where I'm at.
Well, a question on that though, I think it becomes an arms race, right? I know my opponent's going to put on 20 pounds, so I got to put on 20 pounds to be competitive. So what do you do under this new rule when they're both over, right? I mean, there's certain fighters that are going to come in 20% over, right? There's all the accusations about some very well-known fighters who they claim, hydrate with IVs in between fights. UFC 296 was a very controversial, a lot of scuttlebutt around that. So what would you do under this rule, Andy, when you had both fighters come in and just, 16, 17, 18%, 20% overweight?
Well, it's very interesting that you raised that issue. And the only thing that I could come up with that is if they're both over, instead of their opponent getting it, I think the state takes it from both of them. That's sort of the,
Yeah, if there's any, fine, I think the commission should receive a portion of it regardless, because we have to do the legwork on management of all that as well. Maybe not the whole piece, but definitely a percentage.
All right, I have a lot of opinions on this. First of all, as somebody who probably made my weight division 14 minutes out of each year, it's a fact that people are going to cut weight. And I do think the idea of putting a financial penalty on it and saying it goes to the opponent is a really good idea, because the opponent is the one that is taking the disadvantage there. And I also think that if there's too big a discrepancy, and in this case, I don't know, I don't know about this because I feel comfortable with Andy making a judgment call. But if somebody in the future is not Andy, I don't know if I feel comfortable with them making a judgment call with some hypothetical unknown person. But I do think it's fair to say if it's over 15%, you have the option to continue the fight. And if you win, your opponent gets 20% or whatever percent of your purse. And the commission gets another 10% of your purse. Because I think the person that's taking the disadvantage needs to get a significant percent, and the person who's got the disadvantage needs to take a significant penalty. So that I think is fine. The other thing that was on there about the gaining 10 to 15% of their weight gain, and they may require the contestant to move up a weight class. I had a real issue with that wording because it's very nebulous. And I also have a real issue with some unknown medical person having probably, and I know this, I don't even know if it's bad. I don't think I ever paid attention to medical advice when I was competing, because when you're competing at that level, you want to win. And some doctor in the corner says, oh, you shouldn't do this. And you say, yeah. And maybe that's bad, but I think that's the way people are. And, we just approved the last meeting letting people get slapped upside the head, which I had some issues on. And now we're saying, oh, but we're so worried about your health that we don't want you to gain 10% of the weight. So I think the 15% penalty is maybe okay. The part about if it's 10%, we're going to recommend, we can require you to move up. I think that's way too low. And I think if you look at, again, if you look back at the percent of people gain 10% of their weight, it's probably the majority. And if we're saying we're concerned about health, again, about safety, if both people gain 10 or 12% of their weight, then it's even, right?
I think it's about 31%. That's a big number. It's 31%.
Yep.
That's a big number.
I have
Go
a
ahead,
question.
Christian.
So, and I'm just asking, this, I haven't come to a conclusion in my own mind, but is it fair to force a fighter to continue and take a fight if they maintain their weight to fight night and their opponent has gained 25, 30 pounds? We're going to say we're going to compensate you for you doing that, but you're still obligated to make the bout. And I'm just wondering if that's a fair position to put a fighter in who has followed the rules and hasn't come in overweight, but his opponent has come in grossly overweight.
It's an excellent point.
Can you give them an option? Because I've seen that at MMA fights where one person was overweight and they asked the other person, do you want to take this fight? I don't know what happens. I've only seen people say yes. So I don't know what happens if they say no, but that's another thing, is that the other fighter can be given the option. And then what happens if they say no? And I've never seen that happen. It probably does, but I've just never personally seen it.
I had this very example, this very situation happened about 3 months ago at Up Next Fighting, where I had a female, it was larger females. I had one female, I think they did 45, it was 145. The next day, the one of the females was 148 and the other was like 177. And we had the inspectors go back and say, you want to fight? The 177, yes, she wants to do it. The 148, the female says, no, I don't want to. And I said, that's okay, Sean. Just have George pay her show money. And the promoter didn't they didn't fuss too much, but to me, that's almost a matchmaking issue. Like the matchmaker, the promoter should have to pay this person for doing it. But I think what we could do is, and we don't have to discuss, this is a thing where I'm gonna have to bring it back to the commission, but it's good for discussion because I need to know what to bring back. I think this could all be done in the bout agreement. Now, the bout agreement has to be done, as Ken said, through regulation or whatever, but I think this could be done in the bout agreement. Like, if you agree to this, then you can't really cry foul later. And you basically say, okay, if your opponents, if you're this much a percentage apart on fight day, you have the option to take the fight. And if you choose not to, you still get your show money or something like that.
That sounds really fair.
Andy, do we let the participants know each time someone's overweight? If their opponent's overweight?
No, not every time. I let them know if it's some gross amount,
Significant.
some significant number, where the lead inspector calls me and says, hey, we got a problem here. Look at this. And they usually always call me and I'm like, okay, well, let's go back and have the talk with them. And sometimes it's so like the Steffi Cohen fight that happened down there on 360. It was such an egregious amount. In that situation, Steffi Cohen was the A side. They had a B side fighter, and the B side fighter, she actually lost weight between the weigh-in, and Steffi had went up a whole bunch. And I just didn't feel like that was at all reasonable whatsoever. And it put the commission in a horrible position if something happened. So I just canceled the bout.
Dr. Williams, anything from the medical side of this?
No, I mean, I think that the 15% is where I think everybody felt that was significant. And so to Commissioner DeMar's point, you know, I thought we had at least contemplated the concept that if people were repeatedly in that 10% or 12% range, then we may recommend changing weight classes rather than a single event. But you know, I think that, you know, to say, well, people are going to cut weight, it's just the way it is. We make lots of decisions to protect people from themselves. So I think this would fall into that category as well. We still have an obligation for health and safety. We see a scenario where we can step in. I think we still need to figure out a way to do that. And I think, you know, we've talked for years about the importance of weight cutting and the need to do something, because you're right, people were dropping like flies. You could make an argument that the cut was more dangerous than the fight for some of these events. So I feel like we've wanted to do something, and I think people, at least from a medical standpoint, felt like that 15% was really, everybody got behind that. And then less than that, and suggesting changing weight classes was really, it seemed to have been based on a scenario where there was a pattern of this with a fighter rather than one-off incident.
But
Yes,
then I
and
think
like
that needs to be specified. I think that the fighters need to know that if you miss X number of times, I think, you know, if you say, if you're over 15%, okay, I know what that is. If you say, oh, if it's between 10 and 14%, some person can decide if you have to move up, I think that's too ambiguous. I think people need to know if you are over 12% 5 times in a row or 3 times. And I'm not even sure I'd be in favor of it then, but at least people know what the rule is, as opposed to some medical personnel may be easier on it than others. I think it needs to be the same no matter what. People need to know what it is.
I don't think we can take an action, a vote on this, because there's a lot of information. But one thing is, we need to continue to set standards, the high level standards that this commission has done for years, for decades, and make sure that individuals comply with those standards, and we have to stick to them. If we were very strict on these guidelines, Andy, do you think that would impact fighters from coming here in California?
Yeah. That's why I wanted this to return to the commission. I think promotions wouldn't come here if they knew that their main event was going to get canceled every time. I think, and I don't know, this is my guess, is that if it's over a certain number and a fighter knows it, and they know that part of their purse will go to their opponent if they're over a certain it's a big number. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
170, you know, if they weigh in at welterweight and you can't ask them to be less than 195 pounds the next day, that seems reasonable to me and doable. Not just reasonable, but doable. They could probably come in less than 195 pounds the next day. They don't gain 25 pounds overnight. Maybe just gain 23 pounds overnight. If you come in under that, I suspect that will help curb this, because not only, I think some of it's just in my mind, I think it's just the competitive nature of the fighter doesn't want to give part of their money to the person they're about to fight. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I could see that. It's also, you know, it's not fair to the opponent. It's not fair to the contract that they signed. It's not fair to the fans. And I know that's an issue with fans about, they agree to fight at 135 and someone's 162. We have to have some integrity as much as we can in the sport. Any other questions? Any other comments?
I had two other comments on it. One is just something to think about when you're talking about the commission may require the contestant to move up a weight class. You know, like for your MMA, the top women's weight class is 145 pounds. So, like that woman you mentioned that gained 170, there isn't a higher weight class. So, I mean, I don't know if that solves your issue, but that's just something to think about, that there may not be a higher weight class for him to move up to. And then the second thing to think about is when it says that matchmakers, promoters, and so on need to comply by not offering matches to contestants that are not in the appropriate weight class. The one concern I had about that, it's not so much, but if you have young people, they're growing. You know, Rhonda was in the Olympics in 2 different weight classes. She grew between 17 and 21. You know, I won the nationals at 3 different weight classes because I grew. Most of these people, they're professional at 18, so it's probably not an issue, but there just may be points where somebody needs to move up a weight class. So what do you do then? I've got a fighter who's at 125 and I want him to bump up to the next weight class because they just can't cut that weight anymore.
Okay.
Sir, what I can do is I can work with these comments and
Yes.
get minutes, and I can bring you back, work with our regulations council and bring it back to you in June, on June 2nd, have a cleaner copy. And, I can send out my weekly reports, kind of where I'm at with it. This is a big issue. I'm at a loss. I'm trying.
Well, I think definitely financial ramifications, a percentage to the commission, adhere to the guidelines. Anything else from my fellow commissioners, that the point that we need to make sure Andy is
real quick? This is the Regulations Council, Stephen Fong. Thanks all for your discussion so far. Just to go real quick back to Commissioner DeMar's comment, I wanted to say that my relationship is mostly kind of to be the liaison between the commission and the Office of Administrative Law, which ultimately approves the regulations and puts them into the California Code of Regulations. And my job at DCA is to work with I represent 6 other different boards and bureaus, and I've gotten a few regulations passed in the past year that I've been here with DCA. So whenever we use the word may in a regulation, the Office of Administrative Law is requiring us to list the specific criteria for when we're choosing to use discretion. So for example, in C, DeMar's brought up, the commission may, upon medical recommendation, require the contestant to move up a weight class. So we might need to be a little bit more specific on saying when we are going to move up a weight class. And as Commissioner Mars brought up, the Office of Administrative Law, or OAL, may find a clarity issue regarding the upon medical recommendation as to we might need to be more specific in language, such as having upon medical recommendation from a commission approved physician or whoever Mr. Foster may find appropriate. So at this time, as you were saying, Chair, I believe the best course of action would be to withdraw the previous approval and direct the commission staff to come back with language at the next meeting. And then I believe the board council also had a comment.
I don't believe there was a previous approval. Is that?
Yes, sir, there was.
There was
Okay.
at the March
At the March,
9th,
okay.
2023. But before we go back to the rescinding, Mr. Swanson, did you have a comment?
One of the things that we'll have to work through is this issue of someone coming in underweight, because there's a contracted amount that we're agreeing to fight at a particular weight. We're trying to curb weight gain after the weigh-ins, but if someone is underweight, that shouldn't penalize the person as far as the weight gain. If they gain weight after the weigh-in and their opponent has lost weight, there's a bigger differential, which might be a factor in deciding whether the bout should go forward or not. But as far as the financial penalty, that should not probably be taken into consideration. Or if it is, there should be reasons for that that would have to be justified in the rulemaking. And then the other thing, since this has been a helpful discussion for purposes of coming up with a concept of revising the draft text, may be appropriate if the commission were to open it up for any public comment at this time, prior to making a motion.
We're not going to make a motion. There's too much information that we need to. Okay, there you go. The motion that I would entertain is a motion to rescind the previous approval so that we can go back and come up with different language, different recommendation, updated information based on everyone's comments and messages. So with that, can I entertain a motion to rescind the previous approval from March?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Any public comment?
Real quick, just to be specific on the language, the motion will refer to rescind prior proposed text approved March 6, 2023, and direct the commission staff to come back with newly proposed language to approve at a future meeting.
I don't think that was it, because when I'm reading this, it says approving proposed changes to previously approved text. So we never approved these changes. Isn't that what it says? I'm looking at page, whatever it is here, this memorandum, March 4th, blah, blah, agenda item 7, approving proposed changes to previously approved text. So all this stuff that we're talking about that's underlined, this is added changes to the text that we never approved, isn't it?
That's correct, Commissioner.
So we
Marks.
never
These are
approved it
just-
to begin with.
Well, these are just some ideas that, no, I think this one right here is what was approved. Yes. And that's why I brought it back. I think we need to go back and work on this some more.
And to address your confusion, Commissioner, that option was for if the commission today had come to approved language, but since we're not doing that, we're just rescinding and then directing staff to come up with new language, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. Okay, public comment?
This is the WebEx moderator. If anyone would like to make a comment on the issue, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. Each speaker will have 2 minutes with a 15-second warning. We do have a request to comment from someone logged into WebEx as Joe Stevenson. Joe, I'm going to send you a request to unmute your microphone, and you'll have 2 minutes with a 15-second warning. And did you see a pop-up come up on your screen, Joe? I just resent your request to unmute. And at the chair's discretion, I can open up a Q&A feature if Joe would like to type his comment. Would the chair like to provide that opportunity for Joe Stevenson?
Yes, please.
Thank you. All right, Joe, I'm opening up the Q&A. You should see now a question mark at the bottom row of your computer. Oh.
A new computer. My apologies. With the weight cutting, if I could please ask for maybe a waiver to be added to that, to both fighters, to be under their discretion. Because part of it, the cutting, I fought bigger guys and smaller guys, and I signed a contract that I could die and that anything could happen. And I'm just like when I swear in an oath, I mean it. And it's the fighters, some of them think it's an advantage, but if they're cutting wrong, it's not an advantage. And I think that some people know how to do it right through water water dehydration, like instead of dehydrating themselves, they just do not, they just do water depletion. So they go from 2 gallons to 1.5 gallons to a gallon every day, and you cut 4 pounds, then another 4 pounds, then another 3 pounds, then another 2, and you've already done 10% of your body weight before you actually start cutting in a sauna or, you know, doing a jog with sweats on and stuff. So that's how these guys are getting these large cuts. And I think it should at least be offered to them to both be able to sign a waiver or to have like a medical professional going with them at all times for their safety. But they're also, you know, full-grown adults signing to fight each other. And if the smaller person
15 seconds
doesn't want to fight, it seems like if they went into it knowing it, they should still be obligated to fight. But if something was changed that they didn't know, then it should be stopped.
2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Any other public comment?
No, I do not see any further requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Please do. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Mr. Foster, can you take the vote?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Wetch,
Aye.
Commissioner Gruelle,
Aye.
Commissioner Fiore,
Aye.
Commissioner Dr. DeMars, Vice Chair Dr. Williams,
Aye.
Chairman Villegas.
Aye.
Yes, sir. Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so we've gone through, we're back to number 8, Executive Officers Report, item number C.
Well, sir, we have our Regulations Council right here, so he can give our update on our pending and proposed regulations.
Oh, thanks again, Mr. Foster. This is Stephen Vong. As we just discussed for the dehydration and rehydration, the commission just voted to rescind, and staff will be conducting further research and bringing back proposed text at a future meeting. And then the other major regulations package related to pensions will be addressed after the sunset report, according to the Assistant Executive Officer, Trish Blackstock. That's all I have. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you. Okay, sir. And number D, the status update of delegated entities. Sir, I know JT Steele is on the WebEx. I think probably somebody from USA Boxing's on the WebEx. Tony Fossum's in person, if you would like to start with her, sir, from IKF.
Hello, Tony.
Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Giving the report for the International Kickboxing Federation. Do I need to?
Get a little closer to the mic, Tony.
Okay.
Take your time, Tony.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So the report that we turned in was the statistics regarding the 8 events that we have held since the last commission meeting in December. Once again, very happy to report that we had 0 transports. Our officials and doctors are doing a very commendable job at keeping our fighters safe and, of course, reducing liability to the state. Which of course is our job. That's why we're here. But I do want to recognize them because they do a very commendable job every single event. Very consistent, very professional, and very well trained. I know that we don't often get the opportunity to see many commissioners at our amateur events. I know that you're all extremely busy with your pro events. However, if the opportunity ever arises, I would strongly encourage you to come and visit one of our amateur events that might be in your area. We do have a very busy calendar coming up. Our calendar is filling up rapidly for the year, so there will be many opportunities to come visit. And you can read all of the statistics on the form here, but I just wanted to leave you with a few thoughts because although the statistics show that our organization is doing our job for the fighters and for the state, I don't think it paints a full picture of how the amateur Muay Thai scene is really growing and expanding within the state and the support that we were getting. So I'm going to just give you an example. This past Saturday, we had 2 amateur Muay Thai kickboxing events. One was at Commerce Casino in Southern California. One was here in Sacramento at the Track 7 Brewery. Both of those events had our mandated maximum of 18 bouts. And both of those events were at sold out capacity with over 1,500 spectators apiece at those events. And so I was attending the one in Sacramento, in contact with the one at Commerce Casino. And I can tell you that the appetite for our amateur fight scene is just amazing right now. I mean, it's something that the fans are really loving. I mean, 2 sold out events on the same weekend, 2 different parts of the state goes to show that, I believe, but also the support, the number of sponsors that are coming in, the amount of sales on the live stream, or the, the downloads and all those kinds of things really show that the appetite for the Muay Thai kickboxing scene is growing. And I know without being at an event, it's hard just when you're reading statistics on a report to really understand that. So I just wanted to share that with you. Other than that, again, we have a full calendar coming up. We have trainings coming up for officials. We have more and more officials coming on. So we are rapidly getting closer to our 3rd team of officials that we are building currently. And that is being built to meet the new promoters that are coming on. So we're going to have a very strong official team in Northern California, Central and Southern California, trying to be able to draw officials locally no matter where our promoters are. So,
Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome.
There's a website, I imagine, so the schedule's on there?
Absolutely. So I would direct you to ikffightplatform.com. And there's a second one. The Fight Platform is one that is actually nationwide, but you can see all of the IKF amateur events that are going on across the states. Specifically for California, you would want to go to ikffightsports.com.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Tony? Thank you again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir. California Amateur Mixed Martial Arts Organization. I think JT Steele is on the WebEx. His report.
JT, are you on the WebEx?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yep. Welcome, JT.
All right. Thank you. Nice to see you, Chairman Villegas. Ms. Fisher, if you'd like to turn on my camera, you're free to do so. Good morning.
You should
to the
have
board.
the
It's great.
ability to start that on your own. There's a start video button on the bottom row.
On the bottom row. There we go.
Perfect.
All right. All right. So if you can see me, great. If you're just hearing, that works for me as well. I just wanted to give you a couple highlights of the report that we sent over. We've had a great start to the year so far. We've completed 12 events. I think by the end of this month, we'll have done 22 events. So already off to a busy year, safe and great competitions. Appreciate Tony Fossum's comments. She does a great job. She's working hard. We appreciate her as well as the other delegates that we work hand in hand with, in most weekends. We actually are going to be working with USFL this weekend. Dan Henderson, who is a UFC Hall of Fame fighter, he's also a camo promoter, and he does a great amateur show in Temecula, California. We share that venue with USFL, so a lot of our officials will help out and make sure that the youth have an opportunity to be able to be on a good stage where they're able to compete and do so. And we appreciate Dan Henderson and USFL for bringing up the young ones. So we appreciate you guys as well. Wanted to touch base a little bit on the rules and the regulations that we talked about a little bit earlier. There were some great comments from the commissioners. We're going to be one of the hallmarks of amateur rules and amateur MMA is that we don't allow elbows to the head or knees to the head in any fashion at all. But we believe that following suit with your definitions of grounded fighters and so forth are really paramount, because although those strikes are on their face, they're patently illegal in amateur MMA. It's important that the referees from the ground up are recognizing positions and definitions in the same way that they're going to be respected at the professional level. So we look forward to the commission's leadership in this role. And Chairman Villegas made a really important point, is that, and for some of the newer commissioners, Andy Foster has been a leader with CSAC for over a decade in advancing the rule sets that we're using on a national and international basis. And so I appreciated the level of detail that we had in those discussions, because where we go with these rules is really determining where the MMA is going around the world. And that's the way that it's been for quite some time. And I appreciate Andy Foster. He's been on the rules committee at the ABC for a very long time, and he has led out in that, and it really reflects well on our commission. So I think it was Commissioner Gruhl mentioned that it's important for Andy to be at the ABC Boxing Convention. And let me tell you what, it really is. We appreciate him. Just a couple more highlights from our report. I'll continue to update you. We're looking for a new assignment platform that is going to allow some added features for our officials. We're continuing to work on that. It's proving to be a little bit more work than we were expecting, but we're slowly but surely getting to where we want to with the new digital assignment platform. We were asked to put in a little bit of snippet about diversity and females in MMA. And we talked a little bit more informally at the last committee meeting because of some questions that Commissioner DeMars had. And I put that in the report, and I don't think we need to go over some of those details. But I think if you have a moment to look at some of our female involvement in CAMO, I think you'll be very impressed at the amount of females competing, not only as athletes, but from inspectors to judges to timekeepers in all sorts of facets of the game, and we appreciate them. And the percentages, although we don't have nearly as many females participating as males, that's because those females are concentrated into fewer weight classes. But if you actually break down by the weight classes, I think you'll see in my report that the number of females that are competing in their respective and common weight classes is pretty impressive. We're going to continue to be a leader in that regard here in California. I know that's for sure. One last thing, we have an event at Commerce Casino here in Los Angeles this weekend. It'll be a great event. Very experienced amateur promoter. There's going to be some very high-level amateur fights on the card. If there's any commissioners that would like to attend to see a little bit about what amateur MMA is, please reach out to Andy or connect with me directly, and I'll make sure that you're accommodated at the event. You can see a little bit firsthand what we do, not only for up-and-coming fighters, but you're going to see up-and-coming referees and inspectors and everything. So, commissioners, do you have any questions?
Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I think it's very good that you're looking at the diversity in there, because I think what gets measured gets done. And I also think it's very good that you are looking at the lead inspectors and the referees as well as the athletes, because I have seen situations elsewhere where you have a significant number of female athletes, but then they all evaporate when it comes to the leadership administrative level. And I think it's very good for those young athletes too, to see that there's an after competition spot for them in the sport. So I just wanted to compliment you on that.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate that, because we need them, and we have some amazing leadership from females in our organization, and we can't do it without them.
Yeah. Thank you, JT.
Appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Sir, next we have Andrew with USA Boxing.
And this is the moderator, Andrew. You can unmute yourself, and similarly at the bottom of your computer screen, you should see a start video button if you choose to use that. You're unmuted.
Thank you and good morning, Commission. I hope everyone is doing well. Mike McAtee wanted to appear, but unfortunately is unable to. He's assisting our national team in Olympic qualification in Italy at the moment, but he sends his regards. Just to give a short recap of 2023, USA Boxing had another fantastic year. As it pertains to California, we are growing in leaps and bounds in terms of our membership numbers and the number of events. At this point, I would say we would average about 3 to 4 events every weekend throughout the entirety of the state. But we are always looking forward to working with the commission. And again, Mike McAfee sends his regards, and we are actually looking to be present at the commission's next meeting to be able to see everyone in person. One comment that I would like to make personally is I would like to give a large thank you to Mr. Lee Palmer and also Inspector Chapa. They've been very fundamental and they've been very critical in working with USA Boxing over the last recent weeks in helping us manage unsanctioned events. Unfortunately, unsanctioned boxing events have become quite rampant over the last several months, and I would really like to commend the commission and everybody involved on their timely and expedient response and assistance provided to USA Boxing in helping prevent these. So I'd like to give a big thank you to the commission for that.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. Any other?
Didn't you have a young woman that qualified for the 2024 Olympics from California?
Yes, Hahaira.
Aren't you going to brag on that? That was awesome.
Yeah, it was great when she qualified. It was like a little joke between us, but they gave her like a pink little Eiffel Tower during the Pan American Games back in October, and it was a really fun thing to watch.
Thank you, Andrew.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Andrew?
Yes, sir. And then Joe Stevenson, sir, is with USFL.
Thank you for your time, everyone. We have not had too many events. We only had one event, and it happened to be in Texas. There's 20 bouts, no injuries. We're excited for March 9th. There's 21 scheduled bouts right now, and if anyone would like to attend, they're more than welcome. The big exciting things is national championships in April and the Pan American Games in Trinidad and Tobago. They're going to allow us to bring the youth competitors, which international competition is very far and few in between for kids. So it's a great opportunity for these kids, especially when you can't afford to go to the Worlds in Abu Dhabi, and it's a little cheaper to go to Trinidad and Tobago. We have some great success with the character development with the Cedar Cyanide and the Crave Job Institute, with how adversity through competition and combat has helped build character and help push them to hit new levels of becoming great citizens, great people as they grow up. But we've also now learned, that with these things that you can see that because of this study, we're going to be adding a suicide prevention hotline too, just in case there is any negative feelings, because these kids are putting everything in, that we can help them go through the proper channels of getting the right help for anything, because these kids put everything into it, and then we just want to make sure we're learning as we go. And this, I think, is going to be a great add. We're also now kind of looking at this curriculum that we're finalizing. That we've had some charter schools interested in taking up the curriculum as a self-defense, and we're excited about that. We're continuing to grow, and as a professional fighter, now this being the third meeting for CSAC that I've been able to attend, I'd like to tell everyone on the commission, thank you for everything you guys do. Seeing the time that you guys care about this is about everything for the fighters and the athletes. It's remarkable.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Chair, can I just make a comment? Joe, I just want to congratulate you on the work you guys are doing. One of our fellows at Cedars-Sinai started this project with USFL, and then another incoming fellow has continued it. But this concept that you mentioned in terms of risk versus reward, and painting some of the positive pictures we see with participation in combat sports, but at the same time, not neglecting this concept of athlete identity. And that's what I think he's getting at with respect to including some of the information about mental health, the suicide prevention hotline. When we see athletes retired from a sport before they're ready to retire, it can be devastating from a mental health standpoint. And so starting at an early age to teach about the benefits of not focusing solely on identity as an athlete, but identity as a person. Mixed martial arts is what you do, not who you are. And but I think those are the kinds of things that we want to drive home, and at the same time, really elevate the benefits of participating in combat sports, even among youth. So congratulations for doing that. Keep going, and anything I can do or we can do at Curl and Job in conjunction with our fellows to support that, we want to do. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Williams. Thank you, Joe. And good luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Foster?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Staffing update. Wanted to give you a couple of things with the staff that we're continuing to work with. Just quickly, we're continuing to work with the press office, or I think it's called Public Affairs, here with Monica Vargas and her staff. Peter Fournier has been incredibly helpful as far as the news media and getting that piece of it out. But Monica is working to get the licensing for the licensing plate done, and she's filling out the paperwork for us. And as soon as that's done, we should be able to move forward with putting in the application to Department of Motor Vehicles. She has to have some kind of exemption thing filled out, but we're going to get that done. Wanted to say regarding staffing, Christine Lawley, she's the Deputy Director of Consumer Affairs. She helped get 3 of the new inspectors hired. They're the 3 that you saw at the events. And we finally got those 3 new inspectors hired, so that was been helpful. In the office, we're still running at near historical staffing levels as far as low amounts. Not really comfortable hiring anyone just yet with our current fund condition like it is, but we will. I'll keep you posted as that continues moving along. Patricia continues to do a good job, great job really, as far as getting all the admin pieces of the commission put together and keeping the office going. Mark Relier's in the field, Sean Wells is in the field. They do a great job as far as monitoring. And then we have Raul Oseguera, we have Chewy, Jesus Villarreal. We have our lead inspectors down there who you've saw many, many times do a great job running the events. I think we've got about 67 inspectors right now. We have about 171 officials. And we have the office staff who you know, which is not that many folks. But regarding the officials, this is a performance-based group. And if you perform, you will do well with this organization. It's not about the officials, it's about the fighters that we regulate. And I think that's an important thing to say on the record. 'Cause we have various people that are that continue to get licensed, and we have Mike North, sir, is retiring, longest, the most experienced timekeeper in the country. I would say the world, but I'm not sure, but certainly in the country. He's been a timekeeper with us since 1999. He's moving out of state. So we've done a little thing on the Instagram to congratulate him on his wonderful time. 25 years timekeeping for the commission, started in 1999. And it's going to be a loss, but we've got people in the Keenan Wright is in the thing to move up. Lorna Ganaway wants to transition, so working on that. But the staff is got good morale, happy to be here, glad to be part of the commission. That's the staffing update, and thankful for the Department of Consumer Affairs and all the help that they give.
Great. Andy, how many ringside positions do we have?
42, sir.
Does that suffice, or do we need more, or
We could use a few more in various areas. We've got quite a few in Southern California, pretty low in Central, and always could use one or two more in the Bay Area, because we typically have to pull from there.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then, sir, the upcoming event schedule, I'd just like to just throw a couple of dates out there for the commissioners. I think 3:30 is going to be a pretty decent event down at the SoFi, at the YouTube Theater at the SoFi. That's going to be at the Golden Boy show. 427, if anybody wants to go to that, that's going to be Ramirez in Fresno. We'll also have Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. They're one event on their temporary license. That's Knuckle Mania. That's going to be, I can all but assure you, it'll sell out at the Microsoft, the Peacock Theater, at the LA Live. Then on 5/22, I would like to draw your attention to the, it's not on our schedule just yet, but 5/22, that's a Wednesday, will be the Sugar Ray Leonard charity event, that I would recommend to the commissioners if they're able to make it. Backing up a few days before that, 5/18 in San Diego, Top Rank has a pretty good card on ESPN that's going to be coming, and they're not on our schedule yet, but a major event is coming to the Forum, as I've mentioned, on June 1st. And of course, this goes into the next item, sir, totally up to the chair, but I just wanted to let you know that probably a lot of the commissioners will be in Los Angeles on June 1st, and the meeting's on June 3rd. So just for your information, that's going to be a large event.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. That concludes my report, sir.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to open it up to the public for any comments that were not on today's agenda.
This is the WebEx moderator. If you are on WebEx and you'd like to mention a comment, mention a topic that was not on the agenda, you can look for the hand icon. Click that to raise your hand. We will call on people in the order their hands were raised, and each person will have 2 minutes with a 15-second warning. We have a request from Cameron Frizzell. Cameron, I'm going to send you a request to unmute your microphone. You're unmuted.
Hey, good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Once again, I'm Cameron Frizzell. Most of y'all probably remember me by now, but it's been a while since I spoke at the commission. Had to take some time off for my daughter's birth, but just here to update you on my aspirations to be a professional boxing referee. The last time I spoke, I was getting ready to take Jack Reese's Soul Arbiter course, which I did, and Tom and Jack informed me that I did receive the highest score in the class. It was a great learning experience, and I look forward to attending those again in the future. I continue to work with Tom Taylor, as you know. whether in person and when he attends my events, or if he's unable to, I'll record them and send them to him, and we'll usually discuss those when he has time during the week and review my performance and just get any valuable information he could provide. Since the last time we spoke, I'm currently up to a little over 500 bouts refereed. But again, as I continue to work hard, I continue to do some shadowing when available at some of the events, and follow Tom and Jack around and work with some of the other referees there, and just continue to work hard. And I appreciate everyone's time, and I feel I could be a valuable asset to the athletic commission and the sport of boxing in the near future, and look forward to hopefully working with y'all one day and joining y'all in person for another meeting next time it's in Southern California. Thank you and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your baby.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Any other?
No, we do not have any other requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Please. Thank
Thank you.
Our next commission meeting will be held on Monday, June 3rd, with a location to be determined. And so we'll make sure to send out notice. And at this time, we are adjourned.